My family refused to help with my entrepreneurship because they invested in my cousin instead, but now that his business failed and mine is thriving, they call my company the family business. I'm Zachary, a 34-year-old guy who grew up in a comfortably well-off family. My dad owns several businesses around the city, real estate, retail, and more. My mom owns multiple buildings, yes, plural. My grandparents, though not as wealthy, were the first entrepreneurs in the family, building enough success to give my parents their initial boost. In our family, the expectation is clear. You either inherit something and don't mess it up, or you start your own empire. Naturally, I chose the latter. I wasn't some naive kid dreaming of opening a beach shack in the Bahamas, though there's nothing wrong with that. I had a solid plan in my opinion: cybersecurity. Since I was 14 and accidentally hacked my school's server to erase my detention record, I knew I had a knack for computers. I went to college, graduated with a degree in computer science, and spent hours obsessing over encryption, data breaches, and coding. After graduating, I realized cybersecurity wasn't just an exciting career, it's lucrative. Every company needs it, banks, hospitals, you name it. It's like selling umbrellas in a world where data leaks are constant rain. I had a vision, a potential client base, and a detailed business plan that I thought would impress anyone. But here's the problem: I needed money to start. Serious money? Not millions, okay. Just enough to rent an office, hire a small team, and invest in initial software and hardware. I could have started smaller, sure, but I had a clear image of what the company could be. One morning, I approached my parents. We were in their living room and I pitched my idea with charts, market research, and passion. I asked for a loan, not a handout, a loan I'd repay with interest once the business took off. They said, "Zach, we love you, but we don't think you have what it takes to run a business." They weren't cruel about it. My dad sighed like it physically hurt him to say it. My mom gave me that pitying look moms give when they think you're being adorably naive. My dad explained that being a good coder doesn't automatically make you a good entrepreneur. Running a business involves managing accounts, employees, investors, losses, all the boring, unglamorous stuff. According to them, I just didn't have that spark. To them, investing in me wasn't investing. It was throwing money away. I won't lie, that stung. At first, I was furious, but I wasn't ready to give up on my dream. A month later, my cousin Bernard was getting married. A big, lavish wedding with 3 days of events, champagne fountains, the whole show. At one point, I was standing with my parents near the buffet when Bernard approached. He greeted them, shook my dad's hand, and said, "Uncle, Aunt, thanks again for believing in me and helping fund my hotel business. I couldn't have done it without you." I stood there, staring at Bernard like he'd just confessed to being a time traveler. My parents laughed nervously, said something polite, and quickly changed the subject. I had asked for funding. They said no. But Bernard? Bernard got funding for a hotel, a freaking hotel. I left with some lame excuse because I felt betrayed. Not because they funded Bernard, good for him I guess, but because they wouldn't do the same for me. They trusted Bernard, but me, their own son? Apparently, I wasn't worth the risk. Later, my grandma found me sulking. "Zachary, what are you doing out here? Why aren't you inside enjoying the wedding?" There's something about grandmas, you can't lie to them. So I spilled everything. She just let me vent. Then she said something I'll never forget. "Zachary, sometimes people see potential in others because they see a version of themselves in them. Your dad might see a younger version of himself in Bernard, but that doesn't mean you're not capable. You're different, and different isn't bad, it's just different." She squeezed my hand and added, "You're smart, you work hard. One day you'll build something amazing and it'll be on your terms." It sounds like a bunch of cliches, but it was exactly what I needed. The day after the wedding, I was still in an emotional fog, half motivated by Grandma's words, half devastated. I was on my couch when my phone rang. It was my grandpa. He's not the type to call just to chat, so I panicked, asking if everything was okay. He said everything was fine and asked me to come see him. I said, "Okay, Grandpa, I'll be there in 2 hours." When I got to their house, Grandma opened the door with a warm smile. "Come in, Zachary, your grandpa's in his study." He was sitting in his chair but got up to hug me and I started to relax. Grandpa didn't waste time with small talk. He said, "Your grandma told me what happened at the wedding and how you feel about your business plans." I nodded, keeping a neutral expression. He continued, "I want you to know something. I started my first business with nothing but an old van and a loan from my uncle. It wasn't easy and everyone thought I'd fail. But I didn't. Know why?" I shook my head. "Because someone believed in me. Sometimes one person can make all the difference." Then he reached into his desk, pulled out a checkbook, wrote something and handed it to me. I won't say the exact amount, but let's just say it wasn't pocket change. It wasn't everything I needed to launch my cybersecurity company, but it was enough to start, enough to make a real difference. I stared at the check for what felt like 5 minutes. Finally, I managed, "Grandpa, I don't know what to say." He said, "You don't have to say anything. This isn't just money, it's trust. I'm investing in you." I tried hard not to lose it, but he got up, hugged me and said, "Make us proud." Driving home, I kept glancing at the check. It wasn't just money, it was proof someone believed in me. With Grandpa's funding, I knew I had to be smart with every penny. I didn't splurge on fancy desks or modern office chairs. We started small. I roped in my 2 best friends, Adam and Luis. We pooled our meager savings and rented a tiny, cramped office in the sketchiest part of town. But it was ours. Those first 2 years were brutal. We worked 14 to 16-hour days, barely took weekends off, and survived on instant noodles and vending machine snacks. Luis was on endless calls, Adam was buried in code, and I was doing everything at once. Our first big client was a mid-sized financial firm that had just been hacked. We fixed their systems, recovered their data, and prevented future breaches. That project gave us enough cash to move to a slightly better office. Slowly we gained traction. Word of mouth spread and we started landing bigger clients. About 4 years in, we hit a milestone. We had enough revenue to consider expanding. We opened a second office in a nearby city, and a year later, a third in a major city. By then we weren't just a scrappy startup. We were a real company. We also launched a cybersecurity consulting firm, which felt like the natural next step. Companies didn't just want us to fix breaches, they wanted to prevent them proactively. And let me tell you, consulting money hits differently. 5 years after starting the business, I was finally able to pay my grandparents back. I drove to their house, check in hand, and said, "This is yours with interest." But I didn't stop there. These 2 people gave me everything when no one else did, so I bought them a new house. Not ridiculously extravagant, but cozy, comfortable, and in a neighborhood they'd always loved. Watching them walk through their new home, pointing out little details they adored, was one of the most rewarding moments of my life. While our cybersecurity business thrived, Bernard's hotel didn't. The pandemic crushed the industry and his hotel never fully recovered. Apparently, my parents gave him even more money to keep it afloat. Despite their efforts, and I genuinely feel bad for him, the hotel eventually closed. Last weekend we were celebrating my grandparents' 50th wedding anniversary. Because they're literally the reason I have what I have today, I wanted to keep showing my gratitude. I spared no expense, rented a gorgeous hotel ballroom, hired catering, booked a live band, and invited practically everyone. Friends, family, even old neighbors they hadn't seen in years. Planning this event felt more emotional than some of the biggest business deals I've closed. The party was spectacular. Everyone was dressed up, the food was amazing, and my grandparents were overjoyed, which was what mattered. But then my parents entered the scene. At some point, I overheard my dad talking to an old friend. When the friend said he must be proud of me, Dad went on about family values and how his support and guidance set me on the right path. He even called my company a family business. Excuse me, what? I didn't mishear. As the night went on, I kept catching snippets of my parents painting themselves as the backbone of my success. We always knew he'd do something great. We supported him every step of the way. It's what we do as a family, we lift each other up. And the kicker, Dad said, it's all thanks to the family's early support. Look, I'm not saying I needed my parents to grovel or apologize with tears in their eyes. But taking credit for something they actively refused to support? That didn't sit right with me. I tried to enjoy the rest of the night, but I was fuming. So I changed my speech. Originally, I'd planned something simple, a heartfelt tribute to Grandma and Grandpa. But after what I heard, I couldn't let it slide that I started light, cracking a few jokes about how their marriage was older than the internet and talking about the love and respect they always showed each other. Then I got serious. Here's part of my speech. Grandma and Grandpa didn't just build a life together. They built a legacy. A legacy of love, trust, and, most importantly, faith in people. When I had a dream and everyone else slammed the door in my face, they opened it. They didn't just believe in my idea. They believed in me. Everything I have today, I owe to their faith in me when no one else had it. I paused. My parents were staring, their smiles frozen. So tonight, I want to toast Grandma and Grandpa, the only two people who believed in me when no one else did. This success is theirs and no one else's. Grandma was crying. Grandpa nodded with that quiet, proud smile of his. My parents? They were forcing smiles through clenched teeth. About 15 minutes after the speech, my dad found me near the dessert table. He was basically yelling, "What the hell was that speech? Were you trying to humiliate us in front of everyone? Humiliate them? I just told the truth, they didn't believe in me but Grandma and Grandpa did." My mom chimed in, "You didn't have to air family issues in front of everyone. You made us look awful." I was biting my tongue trying not to explode. But then Dad said, "You act like we did nothing for you. We gave you a good life, a good education. How dare you make us the villains in your little success story?" I didn't yell at first, but my voice definitely got louder. "You know what? You didn't believe in me. You had the money but gave it to Bernard for his hotel without a second thought. And when it failed, you gave him more. But when I came to you with my idea, you said I wasn't business material." By then, the room had gone silent. Guests were staring. Bernard, the failed hotel cousin, was sipping his drink awkwardly in a corner, looking like he wanted to disappear. My dad pointed at me, "You're being ungrateful." I shot back, losing all control. Ungrateful? For what? No, I'm not ungrateful. I'm just saying out loud what everyone already knows. My chest felt tight, my face was hot, and I realized I'd caused a scene at what was supposed to be a celebration for my grandparents. I looked around and saw Grandma watching me with a soft, sad expression. Not disappointed, just sad. Grandpa had his arm around her like he was keeping her calm. That's when the guilt hit. I didn't say another word. I turned, walked out of the ballroom, and didn't even grab my coat. I got in my car, slammed the door, and sat there for a few minutes staring at the steering wheel, trying to calm down. That night, I didn't sleep, replaying the argument in my head. The next morning, I got a text from Grandma. "Zachary, we love you so much. Please don't feel bad about last night, we understand." But that didn't make me feel better. I've been thinking a lot, Reddit. Did I go too far and ruin a night meant for my grandparents? Update 1. I figured it's only fair to give you an update since you've been so great with your comments. I thought things would cool off after that night. I hoped we'd all reflect and have a mature conversation. Nope, my parents went nuclear. It started small. A cousin texted me, "Hey Zach, is it true you manipulated Grandma and Grandpa into giving you money?" That's what Uncle said. I laughed at first because it sounded absurd. But then the calls kept coming. An aunt messaged me on Facebook, saying she was disappointed I used my grandparents' emotions to get money, that I called Grandma right away to check on her. She said, "Don't worry about what others say. We know the truth and that's all that matters." She's the sweetest woman alive, and her voice calmed me down. But I couldn't ignore that my parents were spreading a twisted narrative. I'm not one for confrontation, despite what my anniversary meltdown might suggest. But this time I couldn't let it go. I called my parents and asked, "What the hell are you telling everyone? Why are people saying I manipulated Grandma and Grandpa?" My mom replied, "Well, didn't you cry to them? Made them feel bad for you? That's manipulation." I said, "I wasn't crying to them. I was sharing my situation because that's called having emotions." I heard Dad in the background, "Spin it however you want, Zachary, but everyone sees you for what you are now." I told them, "Fine, say whatever you want to everyone. I'm tired of trying to explain," and hung up. I thought hanging up would bring peace, but it didn't. Over the next week, the rumors got worse. One relative said they heard I threatened to cut off Grandma and Grandpa if they didn't give me money. Another said I bragged about manipulating them and laughed about it later. I felt like I was losing my mind. How do you fight something so absurd? It's almost comical, except it's not when people you care about start believing it. Then Bernard, yes, that cousin, called me. He said, "Hey man, I know things are messy, but can you talk to Uncle and Aunt and sort this out?" I said, "There's nothing to sort out, Bernard. They know the truth, they're just choosing to ignore it." I texted my parents, "I can't keep doing this. You've chosen to spread these lies, and I can't keep trying to convince you otherwise. I'm stepping back from this relationship for now. I love you both, but I can't let this keep hurting me." And that was it. I blocked them on social media because they were posting passive-aggressive stuff about me. I stopped responding to relatives clearly fishing for gossip. I'm in a weird place right now. If anything happens, I'll keep you posted. Update 2: It's been a while, boy has it. I wish I were back with better news, but life doesn't always hand you good news. My grandpa passed away last month. The only silver lining is that he went in his sleep, peacefully in a way. But, man, it still hit me like a truck. I don't need to say in this update how important he was to me, not just for the money but for his support and as a role model. When I got the news, I packed a bag and drove straight to Grandma's. She looked so small and fragile when I walked in, but she still managed a weak smile and a hug. I don't think I've ever hugged anyone so tightly. Planning the funeral was tough, but I needed to do it for Grandma. My parents were there, and while we were civil, there was this weird tension in the air. Like we all knew there were unresolved issues, but no one had the energy to address them amid the grief. The funeral itself was beautiful, honestly. Hundreds of people showed up. Grandpa was one of those genuinely good souls, and seeing how many lives he touched was overwhelming. Old business partners, childhood friends, neighbors. People came from everywhere to pay their respects. I tried to hold it together during the eulogy, but I lost it halfway through. Grandma held my hand the whole time, and I'm so grateful she was there because I don't think I could have done it otherwise. Now, here's where things got messy. Grandpa wasn't insanely wealthy, but he owned a few properties, including a beautiful lake house. The kind you'd see on postcards, with a wooden dock, big windows overlooking the water, surrounded by trees. My dad spent a lot of time there as a kid, and I have memories of running on the dock, fishing with Grandpa, and roasting marshmallows by the fire. During the will reading, the lawyers listed the assets. Then we got to the lake house. Grandpa left it to me and my cousin Laura. For context, Laura is my dad's sister's daughter. She's honestly great, someone I get along with. But the moment Dad heard, Zachary and Laura will share ownership of the lake house, I swear I saw his jaw clench. He didn't say anything then, but his face said it all. He was livid. After the reading, he stormed out without a word to me. Mom followed, and I just sat there, awkward, with Laura and Grandma. Over the next few days while I stayed with Grandma, Dad completely avoided me. If we were in the same room, he acted like I was invisible. Mom gave me these weird half smiles but didn't say much either. It's mind-blowing because I didn't ask for the lake house. I didn't even know Grandpa was leaving it to me. But somehow, Dad saw it as another personal attack, like Grandpa was taking my side in some imaginary war. Laura and I talked about it one night over tea. She admitted she felt uneasy too because her mom, Dad's sister, wasn't thrilled about the will either. But at least Laura's mom wasn't acting cold. One afternoon, while helping Grandma sort through Grandpa's old things, she sat me down. She said, Your grandpa loved your dad so much, Zachary. But he also saw how hard you worked, how much you fought to prove yourself. He wanted you to have something that meant a lot to him. I think she knew I felt guilty about the whole situation, like I'd unintentionally caused a bigger rift between Dad and me. But she said something that stuck. Your grandpa wasn't taking sides, he was choosing love. He loved you and Laura, and that's why he wanted you both to have a place where you could always feel close to him. The night before I left, I ran into Dad in the kitchen. He was stirring tea and I was filling a glass of water. For a moment it was silent. Then he spoke. You know, that lake house was supposed to stay in the family. It was supposed to be ours. I replied, it still is, Dad. I'm not selling it. I'm not turning it into a rental. It's still ours. He didn't respond. He just stirred his tea, set the spoon down and walked out. Update 3. I've got some things to deal with now because my dad has decided to sue me. He believes the lake house is rightfully his, despite Grandpa leaving it to me and Laura. I can't say much about the details because it's all complicated and legal, but I'll give you the gist. It started when Dad began showing up at my house unannounced, demanding I hand over the lake house. At first I thought he was just upset and wanted to talk. But when I refused to budge, he started making threats. He said Grandpa's will was wrong and that I was in the wrong for not sharing the house with him. It was like a switch flipped in him. Then the legal papers arrived. I won't go into specifics, but basically, Dad's legal team sent official documents accusing me of improperly obtaining the lake house and demanding I turn it over. He claims it's his inheritance, not mine, and that I manipulated Grandpa into leaving it to me. I mean, it's ridiculous, right? Grandpa clearly left the house to Laura and me. My mom keeps trying to play mediator, urging me to give in and hand the house to Dad so we can move on. I'm at a point where I don't think there's any going back. I don't think we can ever repair what's broken. I probably won't post during this time, at least until things settle and I can share more details. Update 4. This update comes much later than the last, and I wish it had come sooner because that would have meant the lawsuit with my dad ended earlier. But it's only now that I can talk freely about everything that's happened. No, my dad couldn't overturn Grandpa's will and get the house, which would have been perfect for him, as I'll explain. The lawsuit should have been quick, but Dad had good lawyers, at least at dragging things out, and it lasted longer than usual. I think he hoped I'd eventually give up and hand over the house. I couldn't have done that anyway since it also belongs to Laura. Even my Aunt Laura's mom didn't join Dad's crusade. And when Grandma told me Grandpa truly wanted us to have it, I couldn't back down. Thankfully, Grandma's testimony helped in court since Dad had nothing, absolutely nothing, to back his claims. All he did was spend an insane amount of money he didn't have on lawyers, but he also forced me to spend. The silver lining? Besides spreading his narrative that I manipulated Grandpa to our family, he expanded it to others, to the point it was hurting my business. So we played chess. I countersued for defamation and damages. I don't know the lake house's value since we haven't had it appraised. We don't want to sell it. But I'm sure what Dad spent on lawyers and paid me after I won the defamation suit was far more costly. We're talking big numbers. This is particularly bad for Dad because part of his obsession with the lake house wasn't about memories, he wanted to sell it for cash. Grandpa's body wasn't even cold, and Dad was already fighting over the inheritance because he needed money. What? The loans he gave Bernard for the hotel, plus additional loans, left him in a shaky financial spot. His fight with me made it worse. He can't blame anyone but himself, he brought this on. He could have used the lawyer money to pay off debts and still have some financial stability. Instead, my parents had to sell their house. Part of the money went to my lawsuit, and the rest covered other debts. They've been hit hard financially by that bad investment. They still have Dad's business, which as far as I know is profitable. But he's looking to sell part of it to ease debts that a family member suggested I buy it to keep it in the family. But partnering with my dad isn't exactly tempting right now. Plus, it's not an industry I'm passionate about or can contribute to with my expertise. At least I know Dad won't have money to keep suing over whatever he dreams up next. Edit. Dad sold part of his company to a relative. I thought some of you who asked about it might be interested.